question, which was about the pen tool to make selections. So if you're quite used to using the pen tool, just be on the layer where the pixels are you want to select. That's always a good thing. Remember where you are. So say I want to select this moon, because it's a bit of a troublesome shape any other technique, and I want a nice edge. So I can use that pen tool just like you would in Illustrator. So I just keep going around the moon, getting my nice little curves. So it doesn't help you if you're not terribly good at using the pen tool, but work in progress. And then like with any other selection, you can improve it afterwards. So it does flick to having the other tools in there. So you've got pretty much what you're used to in Illustrator there. And you can sort of go in and sort of alter the path. See if I can zoom up so you can kind of see my path there. So you could fiddle around with it and edit it and so on. So it's a good way of doing it. Now once you've made the path and joined it, the next trick is to go and find where it's sitting. So if it's not up, you'll need to go Window, Paths. There it is. So that palette needs to be visible. When you do that, you'll find that whatever you drew is now considered a work path. Before you can do anything with that, you'll need to save that path. We'll call it Moon Path 1, in case I need to do another one. And then the little trick is just this in the Paths palette, this little piece there, this little dotted circle, it just loads it as a selection. But you can turn it back into a path, so that's another good thing to know. Any selection you make, you can actually turn it into a path, and you'll find you can then go and edit it just like you would. Oh, sorry, we need one of these. I think we can get back in there and we can sort of grab those tools and we can fiddle around with once we're in there, just like Illustrator. So I'm having trouble moving that, but you can edit it afterwards if it's not perfect. So yeah, if you don't like what you did, you can ditch it, you can do the whole thing again, but it is another way of getting a selection. So if I Command D and deselect, it's disappeared, but my path hasn't disappeared. So at any point I can just hold down that shortcut key, which is next to the spacebar key, and Command click on the path, and notice just like with the thumbnails, it will change the tool. So you get that little square, and click once with your mouse and it will reload the path. So I'll just do it one more time. So you've got to make sure you're on the layer of the pixels you want to affect. So let's say I want to do one on this top layer because I've got a bit of a fuzzy moon and I want to make a better selection of that. So same thing, I'm just going to go and make sure I've got the tool that I want. Note you can add and delete anchor points. It's very similar to working in Illustrator. So whichever one of those you've got the freeform pen tool as well, which is good to work with. It will kind of zoom around and imagine you're on a tablet. Crucial thing is to join the path back up. So you can see it's freeform, but it's not very nice curves. It's a bit ugly compared to using the typical pen tool. But nonetheless, you can use it and you could go in and you could adjust all those points and fix it up. And then when you're ready, convert it to a selection. So that's, to me, it's not a very successful path. I prefer using the actual pen tool because I have better control over that. So again, you click just like you do in Illustrator. It's exactly the same way. And I'm getting smoother curves doing this. And the crucial thing is I've got to join the path when I get to the end, or the whole thing falls apart. So that's now a new work path. So I want to save that path, and I might call this, Moon 2. So I know what it's called, and that's Moon 2 path. So I can have multiple paths in the same document, and hold down that Command key and click. And if you hover over it, it gives you a little message which says what it does. load path as a selection, click with that, and then if you want to turn it back into a path, make work path from selection. So it can go both ways. So any selection can be a path, any path can be a selection. So whichever way you arrive at a selection, the whole point is that it allows you to then do things with it. So remember I was talking about modifying it. So in this instance, probably I want to expand that path a little bit. So I can hit expand and maybe expand it by, oh, let's exaggerate, let's say 20 pixels, just so you can see it. So you can see that's expanded it. Well, maybe that's a bit too much. So select, modify, expand. Let's say 10 pixels might do it. Often these are very subtle changes that you're making. I'm kind of happy with that. I've got most of my yellow, and now I can go ahead and start using that selection. Remember, I can't do anything. I'm on the wrong layer. Got to make sure I'm on the right layer before I can, and not on the mask. I'm on the actual pixels. This thumbnail is the pixels, and then if I go image adjust, any of these. So say hue saturation again. I want to change its colour, and only what's inside the selection is being affected by that levels command. And just to follow up on something before, you do have, I went in here, image adjustments. So any of these, great fun, play around with them. However, if you want it, that's permanent. Just be aware that in here, these are hard edits. So once you've done them, you've done them. They've been applied. The difference in here is in the layer, and you can make adjustment layers that are not permanent. So these are called non-destructive editing. So if I do a levels one through an adjustment layer, you can see it sits on top, and there it is sitting down there is my adjustments. Just pull it across here so you can see it. And I can play around with all these presets. I can do my own thing. And it's not permanent. You see, every time I do something, it's making these extra layers on top of my thing. How complicated is that? So that can drive you a little bit batty, doing lots and lots of adjustment layers. And the problem is if you keep doing them, they're affecting the thing underneath, and so sometimes, look at those, way too many. So I'm going to just sort of delete them all. I'll just delete those layers, and I'm back to normal. I've just got one there maybe, I'll just hide that. So it's not wrong, just to understand the difference though, that you've got lots of these adjustments and the same tools appear in two places. Here, image adjustments, so they are what's called destructive edits. They actually alter the pixels permanently, as compared to layer adjustments, which just sit above your image. So just do a colour balance one, say that, and that's just sitting above, and anything I do with it, I'll just grab it, it's hiding down here, come back over here. They're not permanently applied, so they'll make changes to whatever's below them. You can see there's a levels one, but it's not permanent. I haven't destroyed, it just really gives me a chance to decide, and once I decide I want them, I need to merge them down into that layer if I decide I want them. The problem is sometimes you get very confused because they're stacked on top of one another and you're not quite sure what's going on. So I would just sort of do them one at a time really, and then if I'm happy with it, shift select the layers and just merge them. So you can just merge layers, yeah, and only the selected layers merge. When you want to merge all your layers, you can flatten an image, but that's something you would do right at the end. And usually I would merge a copy, do a final flatten of the image. Say I want to bring it finally into InDesign. I would make sure I kept a copy of this image with all the layers, because what happens if a client comes back to you, could be a year later, and says, oh, I really, really like that illustration you did, can you go back and give me a purple one of those now? Or could you go back and change the type and update it? And you flatten the layer, you can't do anything, you can't go back and edit it. So just think about what you're doing there. And if you just hold down the shift key, you can just select the layers you want to merge. And only you can see now that change from the adjustment level, the adjustment I made, the colour balance is permanent. It's done. It's part of it. Okay, but happily for us, in terms of reselecting it, even though it doesn't look like it's there, if I go back to my paths, and this is why paths are terrific, there's my path, and if I hold down that command key, oh, it's the wrong one. Let's just forget that one. It's this one I want to load. Hold on the thumbnail, hold down, and I can select it. And you have another way of saving selections, which is called window channels. So just got to see if I can see it there, channels. Now channels all function in a similar way in terms of that you have a channel for each of your red, green, blue, or if you were in CMYK, you'd see basically each plate displayed there. And you can do the same thing. You can save a selection as a channel. It's called an alpha. And again, why would you do that? Well, because sometimes you might have a Photoshop file and you want to put, say, a gloss over that, or you want to emboss it, or something like that. You would send that Photoshop file to the printer with this alpha channel for the area that you want that varnish or that special, whatever it is, that special treatment to be on. So alpha channels are very important in terms of print production and putting special finishes on, but they're also just handy things for saving a selection if you don't want to work with paths. So, you know, back in my image, I can deselect again, so Command D, and then if I go to my channels, I can Command click and reload that selection at any time. So you have multiple ways of getting those selections back. If you've isolated something on a layer, like we did with this one, I'll zoom out, I can reload that selection from that layer and it can appear on any layer. See, that selection is taken from there, but it's appearing on this top layer. So selection, the layer selection, I could then use that, and I could use that outline, make a new layer. So the selection, see it's appearing on this layer, it's appearing on that layer, it appears on any layer. And I could say, okay, I want to dump a different colour in there because I'm going to overlay it over the donkey. So let's say I go for, let's say just something bright and poppy. I'm going to dump a pink inside that selection on a new layer. And then I can play around with how that interacts. Remember my overlays, you know, I could, I'm just getting all sorts of interesting things. And I'm just using that outline created by the overlay, but it came from this layer here. So loading selections from something you've already selected, you already got the shape you want. You don't necessarily have to make an alpha channel, but you could. So if I load that selection again, and I think to myself, you know, I really want that to be a permanent part of this file, maybe I'm going to use that selection and emboss the donkey out of the background. Okay, then I need to save it as an alpha channel. And I would just click there, and there's my alpha channel. And that outline there, that alpha channel, would be used by the printer to make an emboss or to put a varnish on. So alpha channels are really important. It is advanced Photoshop, but I think even as a beginner, it's kind of handy that if you've spent, you know, an hour making a selection and you're not chopping it out, so it's not isolated on a background like these are, what are you going to do? So, you know, say you're just working with that version of it, you don't want to chop it out of the background, you want to keep that background, then the alpha channel is a great way to store that. And you can see I can deselect and I can get the moon back, but I haven't bothered to select that and chop it out on its own layer, but I've got it either as a path or a channel. You can save them as both. So that one could be saved as a path as well. So let's turn it into a path. It's a horrible path. Now you can see why it's better to draw the path. But nonetheless, I've been able to save it, and I would call that donkey cutout. But I would do a much better job of it than that. And then it can come back and be a selection at any point. There it is sitting as a channel, saved with the file, and there it is again saved. So having spent hours on a selection, hopefully you didn't, but if you did, you don't need to feel that they're going to be lost as soon as you do go Command D. All is not lost. You can reselect it by command clicking at any stage. So think about paths and alpha channels as excellent ways to keep a complex path, a selection you've spent quite a bit of time on. Why wouldn't you save it as a channel or a path for use later for whatever you might want to use it for? And it means you don't have to chop the moon, say, out of it and separate it onto a separate layer. Yeah, because the moon is just there, sitting as a path that I can load at any point. Oh, wrong one. Got too many moons. That one. Yeah, and so say I come back later and I think, actually I'm not happy with that colour. I want to come and do another change to it. I won't have to reselect it and get some weird mismatch. I can do whatever I like with it. So maybe I just want to tweak the colours a little bit, warm them up, cool them down, without touching anything else. And the selection isolates it, so I'm only manipulating what's inside that selection. Very handy. Okay, I'll stop now, but I think, just think every time you've made a selection, particularly if it took you a bit of time, go to Window Paths. So they're always here, Paths, or Window Channels, just there. Open it up and just click on the little radio button that's there to turn it into a path. And to reload it, just hold down hover your cursor over the thumbnail and click once, and that will reload it. Apple D or deselect, you've got your select, load and save selections. You can also use save selections, basically what we're doing. If you say save selection, it's going, okay, make a new channel, right? So you can do it through that menu if you forget everything. But it's very quick to use the shortcuts to do it. You just open channels, click on the radio button, load it as a selection here, same thing here, turn it into a path, turn it into a selection, super easy, right? So a little bit of extra skills, but they save you so much time, so that you're not endlessly reselecting something or opening a file and not having saved a selection, having to redo it all again.